It's great to see you. I had to get on here and try to make something really quick. I have been pulling a Cassie, ruminating too much on how I'm going to record the next show now for about a week. So I'm just going to be spontaneous and do it. I could not sleep this morning after a very interesting dream. And I've had a few things on my mind that seem important. And I felt compelled that I had to get up here and do this. So here I am. So here goes. So one of the things that has come across as really important to me lately is this situation where many people feel strongly that they don't need to take any action, that simply speaking, they are free and sovereign is enough. And in many ways, I want to agree with that. Absolutely. And I completely comprehend why people feel that way. It's a daunting task to consider changing your status from a commercial citizen to a state national. There's a lot of people getting stuck on the word citizen, and I'm not going to go into that. That's something that I'm still trying to finalize some research on. There's a missing puzzle piece I just can't quite find. So I can clarify a point that one of my favorite speakers made about that word, which seems to be causing, it actually does seem to be causing some division within groups of people who are trying to stand up. So I think that's an important one, but I'm not going to get lost in that part of the subject right now. I think I found another way to make my point. My point about why it's important to actually take action instead of simply speaking your sovereignty is that we chose to come here and be in a physical place. I absolutely believe there is a spiritual war happening, but I believe it's playing out in the physical as well. I think that's pretty clear. When we have an old saying, I think, that illustrates it well. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but names or words will never hurt me. I think that's a really appropriate illustration that makes my point. And we see the physical things playing out in so many areas. For example, we know that the bad guys, right? There's a three-legged stool, so to speak, to illustrate this. The three different areas that support the end game would be financial, which we know that hub is in London in the UK. Religion, which was the Vatican in Rome. And the military arm in the US. I feel like we have seen at least the religious arm fall, and it would seem that we have seen the financial arm fall with the changes in the crown. However, I think the death rattle is still happening. We still see the last throes of the dark hanging on for dear life. And we see a strong correlation between finance and military in the United States. And that's clear to me why, considering the fact that the taxes in the United States are a huge support to that leg of the stool in London, in the UK. So this relates to state nationalism directly, or the state national concept. I'm still kind of looking into isms. Not sure that that's the best description. So we'll call it the state national concept. Your status. I'm not saying taxes are necessarily bad. I think we need to have more discussions on that, but the system certainly needs to be revised or revamped. We're going to have to do a lot of that. But first, we have to get through this WAR, this battle. We have to get through this battle. before I think we can have those discussions about how we continue to support society. If we're going to continue to have money, we're going to continue to live that way in this physical realm, have cities. I appreciate that we need something like taxes to do that, potentially to support infrastructure. I'm not saying we don't, but what I am saying is the existing structure is supporting a negative agenda. If you're not sure about that, I'm going to make it real cut and dry. It used to be a lot more complicated, but now you can see a direct correlation with how huge the deficit in the US is. I'm guessing it's like this in a lot of other countries, but I don't know them, so I can only speak to the US. When you have such a huge deficit, we know that the vast majority of our tax money, if not all of it, or even more than 100% of it, is actually going toward the interest on that deficit. And that interest is supporting the bad guys. So there's your correlation. When you become a state national, it's the most peaceful way that I know to stand up and take your money away from the bad guys. There's your simplest way to look at it that I can think of to put it into words. We can go into a lot of details, show you graphs and numbers, and this percentage goes here and this percentage goes here. There are portions of the tax money that go to other places before it goes to the interest. But I promise you, none of those places are infrastructure. There are some interesting people out there that talk on that in more detail. So I've talked about those people in the past. At any rate, that's why it's so important to consider something like the state national concept as opposed to being a commercial citizen. Because if you really want to stand up in this fight and you want to do it peacefully, we need to stop supporting a negative agenda that is hurting us and hurting our fellow humans. Right? I think that's what a lot of this is all about. So I'm not against anyone who thinks that we can just speak that we are free and sovereign and not take action to exit that system. I'm not speaking against anyone on that. Many of the people that speak about that are some of my favorite people to listen to. I just think it's important that we have conversations about this and come up with solutions. So far, this is the best solution that I have been able to find. Maybe somebody has a better one. And if they do, I would love to hear about it. I'm going to do another show in the near future on more details into some of this. I'd like to talk about the voting concept. I just connected some dots on that I'm kind of surprised I didn't connect dots on before, but I had a fellow state national help me do that. And it's pretty clear, actually, the whole voting thing. It kind of sheds a lot of light on what's going on with the Brunson case too, which is fascinating. So let's see. Let me double check my notes. I don't want to miss anything. Something else that I wanted to bring up briefly that I ran across, and it's starting to solidify now. I still need to do more research on it so I can actually give you some support, historical data, show you on the screen and whatnot. In the meantime, I'll give you a little preview. Some people have talked about this, but not a lot of people. And I think it's really important that we make the distinction. The Nasara, there are two different ones, actually. Probably much like everything else, there's always two of everything. You'll learn that if you start studying the state national concepts. Nasara, that was originally enacted in the mid-90s. I want to say 95 or 96. This is where I have to finish my research so I can show you the documentation. And a lot of that has actually been hidden. I'm having a hard time finding it. But the original act of NESARA was the National Economic Security, and I'm sorry, Stabilization and Recovery Act. I still get stuck on those words. It's been pretty drilled in, the words that we have been using on the more current version from 2002. And it's so interesting that other one they have hidden that or tried to hide it. So again, NESARA from the mid-90s, National Economic Stabilization and Recovery Act. What's so different? Listen to the words. We have to remember how important words are. The one that most people are talking about that you find when you look it up on the internet is from 2002. There's a lot of problems with that. We know a few things about what happened in a certain date in September on the 11th. That would mean, we know that was actually perpetuated to stop the original NESARA. So it's interesting that the original NESARA has been hidden, and now we find one in 2002. That's the National Economic Securities and Reformation Act. So please consider those words, the difference between stabilization and recovery versus securities and reformation. Words are very important. It seems very clear to me when I realize the difference between these words, how it's possible, I'm not saying this is true, but it's possible that the 2002 Act could have been altered based on the original act in the mid-90s to perpetuate the ongoing de facto financial system and de facto governing system. So, I mean, we've never seen that before, right? So I just think it's important that we talk about that, put it out there, and that people are aware. I'm going to continue to try to work into my daily schedule to find the original act and compare it to the one that we can find now from 2002. It's really important to put when you find these two things, when there's two of everything, put them side by side and compare them so you can see what's going on, right? Anyway, so I wanted to bring that out. I think that's really important. I think that's about it. So I just hope that what I'm saying resonates and makes a little sense with people. Again, I'm not necessarily saying that I'm right, but I feel led to bring this out and have this conversation. It's super easy to stay in a place of, I shudder to say the words, cognitive dissonance, even when you feel that you're completely awake. It's, I think, easy to stay in that cognitive dissonance and believe that we don't need to take any action, that we can just speak the words. I'm afraid that's not the case. Well, I don't like to use the word afraid, so I'm not going to say afraid. I take that back. I just don't think that's the case, but I'm willing to talk about it. Absolutely. And there's a lot of good reasons I feel that way that I'm not going to elaborate on here. I just wanted to make this a quick jump on here and make a quick show and try to get those concepts out in the world. So please let me know what you think. I hope that you'll like, subscribe, and share my channel. And hopefully this doesn't get me kicked off YouTube. If it does, you can also find me on Rumble. And that is Light on Change, no spaces, on Rumble. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you soon. Bye.